Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, success keeps slipping through your fingers? Well, you're not alone. I failed starting a business for over 3 years, and here's what I learned. In this video, I'm going to share you my journey of failure, the lessons I learned, and how those failures eventually led to my success. Whether you're struggling with your business or you're just starting out, my story is probably going to resonate with you. When I first started, I was filled with enthusiasm and big dreams. I thought I had everything figured out. I had some success with business while I was going to college. I was going to school originally to get a degree in computer science, and I had my whole life mapped out that I was going to make a ton of money and get rich by, working my way up the corporate ladder and trying to get to the point where, I had a good paying job, I had a good condo or whatever, a good apartment, and I basically just like played the game of life. And then I came across business, and I did like a sales job, and during that sales job I learned about business, building multiple income streams, and I came across doing what was known as real estate wholesaling. And so I did that for a little bit, and I actually made like $40,000-$50,000 my sophomore year of college. And so after the end of my sophomore year of college, I decided to move out on my own instead of moving back in with my parents that summer. I decided to just work for myself that summer instead of getting a job, like most college students do, and getting a summer job. So what I did was I worked at home, and then after like a month or two went by, I realized I was like, there's a lot more to this, and I really want to commit. I was afraid of going back to school because I was afraid that the opportunity was going to miss itself. I was afraid that I was going to go back to college and I was going to miss the opportunity that was right there in front of me. So I decided to drop out of college, and I was able to make like some money during this whole time period. But I'll be honest, like I would make some money, then I moved out on my own. I didn't realize how expensive furniture is and a lot of, basic necessities and having to pay for your own things, and then I had to figure out how to put food on my own table. And I didn't realize how much or how expensive life normally is when you pay for everything yourself. You see, a lot of times I was going to college, so, dorm costs were significantly cheaper, or I was back at home living with my parents, and they would make sure that I had dinner every single night. And I basically had no expenses whenever I was home. So, when I moved out on my own, I didn't realize how much life kind of punches you in the face a little bit as far as realizing there's expenses. So I had to, some months I had to get really creative. I made a good amount of money, but I soon saw that money kind of leaving quickly. And so I, that whole kind of dream that I had, reality hit it pretty hard. My first business, like I was able to make some money with it, but it was super inconsistent. And I quickly realized that I had no idea what I was doing. I told everybody, I told the whole world that I wasn't going to go to college and that like I was going to be okay. Like I was just, I was successful in life. It had this big, huge kind of like ego that was built around it. And it really wasn't. I had no idea what the hell I was. It was kind of my naivety or my ignorance of anything. But I was so stubborn, even when I had $50 in my bank account and I had to figure out how to pay rent. That was like $1,200 at the end of the month. Even when I was in those situations, I declared to myself that I was not going to get a job. I was not going to move back in with my parents. I was too stubborn to, call it quits or say that I lost. And so I tried different things out. I started building a YouTube channel, and I had some success with that. And there was one point in time where I had some views, I had some subscribers, and I was like, I need to make money. So what did I do? I spent 2 weeks making a course on how I flipped my first couple of houses. And I went like crazy trying to find some people that would buy it. I think I was in a bunch of different Facebook groups. I was in a bunch of different communities, and I just told everybody that I created a new course. And lo and behold, I think that weekend of making the course, I made $2,000 and I was able to pay rent. And so my life was kind of like this for a very long time. For the first few years, like it was like this. Like I would see some success, and then just due to like my lack of, seeing the sequential consequences of my decisions, my lack of, focusing and committing on one thing, and then also my lack of, not seeking help and advice from others really put me down a pathway of like, it was kind of scary at some points. I was like, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to pay the bills? I did the thing, I jumped off the cliff, but then now I'm like, I feel like I was literally building the airplane as I was falling. And so the constant failures really took a toll on my confidence. I started doubting my abilities and whether I was cut out for entrepreneurship. And a lot of my friends and family were like extremely skeptical. They told me like, go get a real job, which added to my frustration and self-doubt. Like they didn't know exactly what I was doing or like that I was even having necessarily any financial issues or anything like that, because I never let anybody know that. But it was just like, it was hard with like the amount of people that didn't believe in me while I was trying to build a business was pretty insane. And so after, despite all the setbacks, like I refused to give up. Each failure taught me something new and brought me closer to my goal. And I realized, like, I learned the value of networking and building relationships with other entrepreneurs. Their insights and support were like invaluable. I think just bouncing ideas, like, and just sharing the problems that I was facing, just really, it validated what I was feeling. It also reminded me that I was not living an original experience whatsoever. And there's something so like beautiful about that. Just knowing that other people go through the same exact pain and suffering that you do. It's like I said, it's a very beautiful feeling, and it feels relieving, or like it feels good to know that you're not the only person that ever faces this issue of not having bills, like not having the money to pay bills. And then now after me doing this, business for like 7 years now, it's like, I realize how frequent that is. It's so normal to like, have everything going on, have a lot of success, be very optimistic. And then, next thing you know, it's like you're concerned about making payroll, or you're concerned about, being able to be able to even like do basic things like get food. And, those kind of early setbacks or those early failures that I had in the first few years, like really set me, like it really helped develop my character. And it really helped me understand that like this, like I said, as I met other people, I was more relatable than ever before to successful people, because I realized successful people fail and fuck up all the time. And so whenever I'd hang out with them and talk to them, we just understood each other. We understood each other on a different level than I would have never thought otherwise. It was like, oh, you've been kicked in the nuts. Oh, hell yeah, dude, I've been kicked in the nuts too. And so when it came to meeting other people that have like do business and run businesses and own businesses, it was a very normalized subject. I realized how normal it is for all of us to kind of go through shit. And the other thing that I learned is just being flexible and willing to pivot. My business model was extremely crucial. Like stubbornly sticking to a failing idea is a recipe for disaster. Like one of the biggest issues that I had was I tried to make things work. Like I tried to force the universe to like work a certain way. And that's not how things work. Instead, like one of the biggest issues that I had was I wasn't looking and seeing why, what was successful out there and what success actually looked like. I saw success, but I never figured out exactly why they were successful. It was like I kind of did what they did, but then I kind of like a lot of it is I did a lot of things that they didn't do, or I didn't do a lot of the things that they did. And because there was that discrepancy and that gap between like what was needed to like have a result, and then my actual execution was so far from what was needed, was really what set me back. And anytime that like I wouldn't see success, I would constantly bounce around. I remember starting an e-commerce store. I remember starting like an Amazon business. I remember starting Instagram theme pages. I remember the YouTube channel, the real estate. Like, it got to a point where after my initial success, I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do every business model now. And that was one of my biggest mistakes. Honestly, if I just stuck with one business and just saw it all the way through to making $1 million a month, I would have been fine, because basically every one of those businesses I listed, you can make $1 million a month with it. But I couldn't see that. Like I felt like it was the key, or the secret was to try everything and to have everything. And what I will say is, a man who chases 2 rabbits catches none. So don't be the man that chases 2 rabbits. And that was the person that I was being. I was trying everything out. I was trying to do all these different things. And that is what set me apart, or that is what pushed me backwards. And that's what made me burn all my money, on top of realizing the rent and the expenses that I had. Was I wasn't giving something a full shot. Instead of like making a bunch of little 1% optimizations to constantly become better and better, instead, as soon as I would run into a wall, I would try something different. I'd run into a wall there, I would try something different. I would run into a wall, I would try something different. Instead of just keep running into that wall and keep pounding on the door until the door opens. Because I realize now at this point, now that I've made millions of dollars online, is that success is inevitable if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you just kind of are a mad scientist and reiterating your variations of what you're doing. And I never allowed myself to kind of look outside. Like I never realized that for myself, or I stuck with things that just didn't have a high income potential. Like I I would find some way of making money. I would go do it, but not knowing that obliviously, like the most anybody was doing it with that type of strategy or whatever was making like $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month. Instead of studying the people that were making $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month, like I was studying the people that weren't really making that much money in the first place. And me studying these people that were not making that much money in the first place really got in the way of me even at all having any amount of success. And so here's the thing. After numerous failed attempts, I finally found, for me, it was a business, like the business that clicked. I did the real estate for a bit. I just wasn't consistent with it. I started to have a few bad months, and I got shiny object syndrome. Started doing YouTube. I was starting to very see consistency with it. I got to where I was able to make like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month with it. And it wasn't until I discovered faceless YouTube channels and I discovered, I started to have some more business wisdom. I started to talk to more successful entrepreneurs that I really learned how this all works out. So I quickly went from like making like $3,000, $4,000 a month to where after like a few months, I scaled up to like $42,000 in a month. And then a year later, I was at about $70,000 a month. And that was just because I found something that was like working. There was a high income potential. And what I did was I committed to going all in on that thing and seeing it through to the other side, because A, I knew that it was possible. And then B, I knew that if I just committed to the thing, then I would see massive amounts of success. And so that's what I did. I committed for, I think it was like 60 days. I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes. It didn't even take that long. Like after 14, 15 days, I got to where I was making a couple grand a day. And then, it was kind of hard to sustain a couple grand a day, but I got to where I was doing, at least $1,000, $1,500 a day. So I got to over 40 grand a month. I outsourced everything. I hired a whole content production team. I removed myself from the business. I went and traveled to Indonesia, Bali. I went and, was there for a little bit. My income dropped a little bit. I got down to where I was making like 10, 20 grand a month. And then from there, now that I had that foundation, I was able to constantly keep stacking on top of it. And I got it to where I was making $70,000 a month. And then I decided to pivot and get into where I started doing branded YouTube channels and doing more kind of like long-term play. So that play was good. It was like a good like 2-year play of my first kind of faceless YouTube channels. It was a little bit short-lived as it was a little bit against community guidelines. And then I discovered, I was like, okay, cool. I want to do this I want to focus on 10-year, 20-year game plans. So then I had a lot more longevity in my direction. And ultimately, like what started happening is I just dropped my ego. I started actively seeking and implementing feedback, which helped me refine my YouTube channels and my approach. And instead of trying to do everything on my own, I think for the longest time, it was like my stubbornness and my ego kind of got in the way of things. I was like, oh no, it's okay. I'm good. I can figure everything out myself, instead of just like hiring or paying people that have already done what I'm trying to do and just having them tell me what to do and just learning through their failures and their mistakes instead of my own. And so that's when I started really that's why I built my own like info business and info products and stuff like that, because I got so much value out of, once I started hiring mentors and started helping people to help me, it changed my life actually. Like it saved me so much time, it saved me so much money. Like, I'd pay someone $20,000 to teach me a thing. And in reality, they would save me like millions of dollars worth of headache and struggles because I paid them whatever the 20 grand. And that mindset of like realizing that how much time, how much pain and suffering you can save somebody is why I kind of fell in love with that process and helping so many other people do it. And all the time, it was like, I was just talking to a student today that, she's making like 20 grand a month, and 6 months ago she was making next to nothing. So it just like seeing those people that go through those progressions and then seeing her go through some of the same struggles that I used to go through and trying to help her navigate through that is like just it just makes me feel good in the world. Like I'm saving people time. Like the 3 years, that first few years of pain and suffering of building my first business, it's like it's so beautiful to help other people do the same. So, ultimately at the end of the day, remember, failure is not the end. It's a stepping stone to success. Each failure brings you one step closer to finding what works for you specifically. And so for those of you that are just starting out, don't be afraid to fail. Learn from your mistakes, seek guidance, and stay persistent. Your breakthrough might be just around the corner. And my journey of 3 years of failure taught me invaluable lessons about persistence, about flexibility, and importance of learning from each setback. And so that's what I have. Thanks for all the support and the love. We just passed 1,000 subscribers actually after starting this channel like a month ago. You guys are insane. Like, we got like 40,000 views just in the last few days. So thank you guys so much. And make sure to drop a like, watch the other videos. And I think we can get the laser show here. It looks like I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.